react. You whispering my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den. Bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying age, you're in defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 First round, fifth round, final round. Oh, 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 yeah. First round, fifth round, final round. No, 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 no. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, oh, oh,
I was hauled up by the Nazis. And for no other reason, I was picked up and separated from my family, who was exterminated in Auschwitz. And I am a survivor of Auschwitz and Dachau. I spent 5.5 years in concentration camp. I spent 5.5 years in concentration camp for one season and one reason only. Because we picked on people. And you as the sheriff, who we elected as sheriff of this county. We did not elect you as sheriff of Washington, D.C. It's about time you serve the people here. And when this gentleman stands up there and he says he doesn't go after any people, he should read today's beat. Because in today's beat, the Supreme Court Justice of State of California objected to ICE coming in and taking people away from the courts. Don't tell me that this is a lie. You stand up here, Mr. Jones, don't forget, history is not on your side.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and this is In Time. With me today is Zandring, and have we got a lot to cover. Zandring, how you doing?
I'm doing outstanding.
Well, that's
Couldn't
good.
be better.
Good. Glad to hear
We're
it.
in Trump's America. People aren't disappearing off the street randomly into mom minivans. We haven't had record amounts of. It's been great. It's awesome.
It's all. Yeah, I would like to live in denial land too. Yeah.
It's not just a river in Egypt, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm gonna jump around a lot today because, well, squirrel. But Tim Pool is now part of the White House press pool. Are you out of your mind? Holy smoke! Did you know about him
good on him for maintaining that high journalist excellence and working his way through the ranks with quality reporting that's been proven to be true time and time again, and never once saying Civil War 300 million times on one single podcast.
And being paid $400,000 by the Russians. Let's not gloss over that tidbit. Yes.
But I mean, he didn't know it was the Russians. I mean, somebody just drops a couple $100,000 and said, "Hey, like your stuff? Okay, let's keep doing."
Oh my God! Oh my God! Well, they're
on him.
Oh dear. So, yes, that's right. NPR, New York Times is out of the press pool. Tim Pool is in the press pool. Tim Pool, it looks like, I mean, it's his organization, so they're going to have now a permanent member. They can select a staff, whatever they want, and have someone permanently in the White House press pool. So, yay. Yay,
Does
integrity.
he still have any staff?
I didn't think he did. I thought they got all wiped out after the whole scandal, but apparently,
yeah, I thought he fired everyone because nobody was willing to work. What he
said. Well, 400,000 can buy a lot of staff. Yeah,
I guess they don't have to be productive when somebody else is giving you the money.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm jumping to that one just because, as a YouTuber who really works his ass off to try to get things correct, I'm a little ticked off. I was like, nobody offered me. Of course, I don't know that I'd want to be in the. Yeah, I would absolutely join the White House press pool if it was offered to me.
I will offer to make the sacrifice to hold my nose and pander like you have never seen anybody pander before to get in time into the White House.
All right.
Press briefing pool.
Thank you.
But you got to pay. You got to pay me because I won't be able to drive. Because who are we going to send? I mean, poor Dave just disappeared into a minivan earlier this afternoon. We still don't know if he's coming back.
We don't know. We don't. Well, okay. So let's clarify. For those of you who watched earlier, there was a bit of a disagreement between myself and our producer Dave in the previous show. There was a hot mic incident. I asked Dave to meet for a staff meeting after the show. He went out for a cigarette. There was a lot of noise out back. Now, we got a police report that says that he ran afoul of a large group of hedgehogs. And that, the hedgehogs apparently carried him off. Now, in hindsight, that report does sound a little suspicious, and my neighbors said that a big mommy van came by, picked him up, and we did say if we wanted to reach him, we could call a number. The area code looks like that's a country code. That's not an area code, though. I think that's El Salvador. So hopefully he's having a good time. I'm going to go to hell for that joke. I really am going to go to hell with that joke because that is not funny. Wow. Yeah, and
well, I mean, they did kind of sort of look like they could have been hamsters in IKEA. I mean,
yeah.
They didn't say exactly what brand of sport utility minivan thing. I mean, to just take a look at many of the sheriffs around some of these places, they look like hamsters in a uniform. So possibly.
And we're going to talk about kidnapping some more because it's getting worse. We've talked about this on the show prior, when literally they were illegally kidnapping people off the streets of Portland in unmarked vehicles with police officers in military uniform, no charges, courts with no records. We'll get into that because obviously there's been more of that, and it's getting worse. And this is just Gestapo tactics, and it's a little frightening. I did want to thank real quick Vincent Van Gogh. I think that's correct. I think. So apologies if that's incorrect, but yes, that is a valid correction, and we'll cover that because I think that's important on the Venezuelans. We do know that there have been 17 more deportations. Marco Rubio took to X today to brag about the deportations. There's still a court order saying they're not allowed to deport any. Now, there's multiple court orders. One says that they're not allowed to deport anyone. That there's a TRO saying that, and then there's another TRO saying that they're not allowed to deport any more Venezuelans. And they said, oh, this just means by airplane. We can still use other means. So now they're using trucks and they're deporting people. The latest group, nobody knows their nationality. One report we had was Venezuelan and Salvadorans. And if that's true, that's interesting because there are no members of TDA from El Salvador, which would mean that the president is violating his own, and I know it's a shock, his own order, and is not going after these groups, but rather just whoever legally he manages to be able, quote, legally get off the streets. But as of this moment, of all the checking that I have found, we have not been able to confirm the identity or even nationality of a single one of those people. They have arrived in that prison. We've also learned more about the prison. It turns out it is a work camp. It is a forced labor camp. And so what that means is El Salvador is actually going to be using these men as unpaid labor in addition to the $6 million that they're getting from the United States. And we have also reconfirmed that at the original deal, Donald Trump walked out of it and said that they were willing to take anyone of any nationality under any set of circumstances, no questions asked. So at least that's according to Trump. And as I recall, the president did also, in fact, confirm that they were willing to take anyone the U.S. wanted to send. Any thoughts, Andring, before we start to dive into that a bit more?
I've railed and railed and railed against that. And we have got to stop this. That was the big concern. It was like, look, I wouldn't want my political opposition to have the power to just disappear people off the streets, and pointed out that they used it against people that were very unpopular. Everybody was cheering it, and that the use would be, that was to normalize it, and then the use would be expanded, and eventually they would get to people where you're like, wait a minute, those are U.S. citizens that are due process before you can't just do that. No, well, you've made it a normal thing, and now that's how you end up with dictatorial power to just disappear people. That's exactly what Pinochet did. That's how he normalized it, and it pisses me off every time. It's like at the moment now, I've got to be as sarcastic about it as I can, because I'll start screaming at people over it.
This is, I had promised repeatedly to get the video. I can't find the video now without commentary and the full video, because the full widescreen video was good. But this is the taking of, so here's what we've got. Trump has promised at this point to get rid of 500,000, I think he said Venezuelans specifically, that he's going to change the immigration status of. Now, it looks like what he has been doing is surreptitiously changing the immigration status without any hearing, he just goes into the records, changes the status without them getting notified, and then they get picked up. This is a woman. She was attending Tufts University. She is currently still in the U.S. to the best of my understanding. We talked about this with Commander McMillan, what they're doing. This gets back to El Salvador, and why El Salvador is such a big problem. Is they're not sending people from El Salvador to El Salvador. The people they're sending have never even been in the country, and what that means is they don't have family there, they have no resources there, they don't have a lawyer there, they don't know anyone they could call or ask for help. So it makes it much more difficult. So he's deliberately sending people who don't live in that country, deporting them to that country, which is contrary. Normally, we deport you back to the country you came from explicitly because you're going to need some help when you come back with no money in your pockets. At any rate, this woman was at Tufts University. She was getting her PhD. What you can't see in this closer shot is the precision with which a bunch of people who looked like they were just milling about or headed in kind of different directions all of a sudden convene and converge on this woman. However, there is audio, which is nice. So let me do that, and hopefully we'll be able to get the audio in so you can hear it. Let's... I'm going to up the volume a bit. Turn down the volume if you will. There's probably going to be... I may play that again if you want to hear it. It's mostly her screaming. All right. So that was in Boston several days ago, actually. You can tell none of those people... Most of them had face masks. You couldn't identify who they were. There was none of the what we're now starting to see, which is trucks that are just come up, pick somebody up, and go off the street. We're going to get into what we've learned about the deportation measures, but this woman was detained, and here's the interesting thing. If you're detained, even as a legal immigrant, you do not necessarily have the right to contact your attorney. She was detained and then moved out of Massachusetts and traveled 1,300 miles before she was finally put in a detention facility so far away that it took, she did have a lawyer. I think the university helped her get one, and it took him a day and a half to figure out even what state she was in. This is just a deliberate measure to make it harder for these people to enact their rights. She had her immigration status changed without notice and without any reason given. Trump has suggested that he's going to just surreptitiously change this week the immigration status of 500,000 Venezuelans. I don't know that we have that many. We do have close to 300,000 was my understanding. It's going to be 300,000 Venezuelans and 200,000 of somebody else. A judge today has issued a TRO against that process and said that he may not change the status of any Venezuelans. Only Venezuelans have now been protected. The problem is the courts are being as narrow as possible, and normally I kind of applaud that, but in this case, so there has been a TRO against him changing the status of any of the Venezuelans here by, work visa or permanent residency without due process. Actually, I think right now, for the next week, nope. For the next 2 weeks, the TRO, they're not allowed to change that status at all. So if they commit a crime, they have to either throw them in jail or let them go. They can't change their status. So presumably, we'll see where that goes. We did, before we get into, and we're going to jump around a little bit, but that's because a lot's going on. Something rather strange has occurred. Before we get into that, we've covered Pegasus repeatedly on this show. One of the reasons is because when we first learned what Pegasus was, it's software developed by the Israelis, and it can purportedly hack into any phone on the planet. It can activate the GPS without you knowing. It can activate the video and audio without you knowing. It can listen in on all your phone calls. Any phone on the planet. Now, we know we got a list of, I believe it was 5,000 phones purportedly had been hacked by this software. A nonprofit was going through and contacting everybody on that list, see if they could test the phone to see if it had the software on it. By the time we aired, every number that they had called had in fact had the phone on it. The numbers included former Washington Post reporter Khashoggi, who had been found. The Saudi Arabian government had been looking for him. They found him. They assassinated him. His phone had been hacked by Pegasus, as had his girlfriend's, as had the lead investigator into his death. If this is the case, that would suggest the Saudi Arabian government had this and used this to track Khashoggi, because they could simply hack into his phone, turn on the GPS, and now his phone has told them exactly where he is to assassinate him. This has happened to a reporter in Mexico, suggesting that Mexico has a copy of this software, and we have been covering this from time to time. Again, I think it's the most dangerous software on the planet. When we cover it, it's one of those things that, because for the most part nobody talks about it, the Israeli Defense Force was in charge of the software. The defense minister was in charge of licensing it. And Mexico confirmed that it had a license but gave it up. A number of other countries denied ever having a license. And the Israelis said, we don't give it out to hostile governments. Saudi Arabia would qualify as a hostile government, and it seems pretty clear they've got a copy. Last year, the company that manufactured that software and had another piece of software, I've forgotten the name, not quite as bad, but almost as scary, that company was sold to an American business front, which is believed to be a front for the United States government. That would indicate that the U.S. government is now in possession of Pegasus. Since it's software, would the Israelis just give it up and say, oh yeah, we've erased all our copies of it? I don't know. But what that suggests is that as of this moment, the U.S. has Pegasus. Pegasus appears to work on any phone. And why I'm bringing that up I'm bringing that up based on a hunch that will become obvious in just a minute. It turns out a Indiana University professor has vanished. We don't know where they are. We are having a hard time proving they even existed. 𝐶ao-Feng Wang, an associate dean of research at the Luddy School of Information, Computing and Engineering. Now, that picture, by the way, was very hard to come by. That was originally from the university's Twitter site. Twitter site has been modified to not show that he had ever worked there. Every scrap of evidence that he's worked there has been erased from their website. They will not discuss him if he is called. His office has been closed. Let's see. He was an associate dean for research at Indiana University's Luddy School of Informatics, Computing and Engineering, a fellow at the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering and the American Association for the Advancement of Science, a tenured professor at Indiana University at Bloomington. He served as the principal investigator on research projects totaling nearly $23 million over his 21 years there. So he's published a number of research papers, highly respected and tenured professor. By the way, there are rules to firing a tenured professor. Ostensibly, he's been fired because he is no longer getting paid by them. They don't acknowledge that he ever worked there. He is gone. The university is now being sued, or actually, I guess they're considering suing him more to find out what happened to the guy, but for violating the rules of firing a tenured professor, because if he doesn't work there anymore, presumably he was fired. He also co-authored scores of academic papers on diverse research range of fields, such as cryptography, system security, data privacy, and including the protection of the human genome data. In recent weeks, Wang's email account, phone number, profile pages at the Luddy School have been quietly erased by his employer. Over the same time, Indiana University has removed the profile for his wife, 𝐒𝐚𝐦𝐚𝐫, who was had been listed as a lead systems analyst and programmer at the university's technologies division. As reported by the Herald Times, a small fleet of unmarked cars driven by government agents. I would assume. I'm going to say I hope. I don't know if you'd rather be abducted by government agents or by the mafia at this point, but went to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Wang on Friday. They spent most of the day going in and out, taking boxes. Attempts to locate Mr. and Mrs. Wang have been unsuccessful. Nobody knows where they are. The university, an Indiana University spokesman, has not replied to requests for information as to whether the couple is still employed and why their profile pages, email addresses, and phone numbers have all been terminated. The FBI field office in Indianapolis has said the FBI conducted a court-authorized law enforcement activity in Bloomington and Carmel on Friday. We have no other information at this time. Searches of federal court dockets have turned up no documentation relating to Wang, Ma, or the search of any of their residences. The FBI spokeswoman has not answered questions about which U.S. District Court issued the warrant or when, and if the United States has detained or arrested either Mr. or Mrs. Wang. Justice Department representatives have also not replied to requests for information on whether they are currently holding either of those two people. Fellow researchers have taken to social media, quote, none of this is normal in any way, Matthew Green, a professor specializing in cryptography at Johns Hopkins University, wrote. Has anyone been in contact? I hear he's been missing for nearly 2 weeks. His students can't reach him. How does this not get noticed for 2 weeks? Matt Blaze, a professor of computer science and law at Georgetown University, has said it's hard to imagine what reason there could have been for the university to scrub its website as if he never worked there. And while there's a process for removing tenured faculty, it takes more than one afternoon to do it. Local news outlets have reported agents spent several hours moving boxes in and out of the residence. That is what we know. Xandri, my suspicion is this is the first you heard of it. I heard of it only a short while ago because it was posted on the Discord, and I had our researchers thank all of you because you guys put up that stuff. And the stuff that we don't use, I still file in my memory, and we don't delete anything off of that channel, and for a reason. So thank you all. Thoughts on this, sir?
First, they came for the socialists, and I did nothing because I was not a socialist. It's frightening that it's frightening that the government can just disappear people. They absolutely have the means and ability to do that, to completely just disappear a person, or even a group of people or several people. But they didn't generally engage in doing that kind of stuff, and now it appears that they are. So I want to know. I'm not going to go into that song. I want to know why. Why is this going on? I mean, they're literally disappearing people. You can find zero evidence of it. There's got to be some sort of collusion between the government agencies that disappeared him and the university. I want to know what they threatened the university with to not stand up and say anything. I have a feeling that whatever they're coercing the university with is probably highly illegal to do as well. Yeah, I mean, that is, at what point are people going to look around and say, hey, we're no longer just a republic. We're currently a banana republic and sliding very quickly towards dictatorship. And I can't get anybody to recognize it. Well, I should rephrase. I can't get any of the people that, like, in the sphere of influence that I actually have, which granted isn't super large, but they're like, no, Trump's America's great, man.
Well, and they've now threatened to pull $150 million in funding from Harvard University for DEI violations. By DEI violations, what I mean is because they have been engaging in DEI practices, they are violating the order, the executive order against DEI. So they threatened, I don't know when the threat was, it was recently, last day or two, they threatened Harvard. They've threatened a number of universities. Columbia was the biggest, which appears to have, at least on paper, capitulated in order to get, if I recall, it was $300 million in funding back. So I don't know. They clearly have strings that they can pull with these universities. This image here, as I said before, if you go look for this name, you're going to have a very hard time finding anything on this guy. This was pulled from the Wayback Machine. This was on the Indiana website. He was a professor. I mean, this is literally from the history of that page. But that page no longer exists. This image can't be found anywhere else but on the Wayback Machine and now on In Time. I can't find it. His Twitter account is gone. I can't find anything on the guy. But I know for a fact he worked there because I can find his old profile before it was scrubbed by Indiana University. So now, but this is interesting, and Porpoise put this in. One of the more recent papers he did, Understanding Malicious Cross-Library Data Harvesting on Android. Recent years have witnessed a rise of security risks of libraries integrated into mobile apps, which are reported to steal private data from the host apps and the app backend servers. The mechanics, the security implications have never been understood. He gets into SDKs, TOS doesn't matter. The discovery of 42 distinct libraries for stealthily harvesting data from 16 popular SDKs at software development kits, which affect more than 19,000 apps with a total of 9 billion downloads. Now, I have no idea if this paper had, this is just one of his papers, but he seemed to specialize in apps or technologies that were capable of hacking cell phones. And I note that as of last year, the most powerful platform for hacking into a cell phone ever devised by man is in the hands of the United States, in the hands of Donald Trump. We've been talking about Pegasus for a while now. The U.S. owns Pegasus now. It's no longer owned by the Israelis. I'm sure they've got it. We own it. Well, that's a terrifying thing when Trump is in charge. There is absolutely zero evidence. This is wild speculation on my part. I've just noticed that a guy who disappeared happened to be an expert on cybersecurity at a time when I think cybersecurity is about to become a very serious issue, especially if we're hacking phones, which I don't see why we wouldn't be. We've denied that we ever had the software, but it was licensed to us, and we now own the company that made it. So, I have no idea why this guy's missing, but it's an interesting correlation. Moving forward, let's see. Like I said, we're going to bounce around a lot. The only minor number of vitamin A overdoses in Texas has skyrocketed. Any guesses as to why? Unfair question, because of course I would if you're. And do you have any guesses as to why vitamin A overdoses in Texas are skyrocketing?
I do not have a guess.
Measles outbreak. Vitamin A is considered, high doses of vitamin A is considered a, quote, cure for the measles. It's been, RFK Jr. has been going out saying that really people need to be working, exercising more, taking vitamin A and cod liver oil, and that will cure the measles. So
cod oil. Yes,
yeah.
Let's take lots and lots of that.
So this is something where I hate to say this. I really hate to say this. And this is where we have to be very careful. He's not entirely wrong. One treatment for the measles is high doses of vitamin A. But vitamin A can become toxic very quickly. It has to be done in a hospital setting. It is part of a proper treatment. And a few studies have shown that applied at the right time during treatment as part of a comprehensive treatment, people who receive near toxic levels of vitamin A recover faster and have less mortality rates. It has to be monitored and done by a doctor. He's just sitting
near
there.
Toxic levels.
Yes, near toxic levels. You have to titrate to a near toxic level, and so you have to monitor. And the problem is, what's the toxic level is different for everybody, because everybody breaks down vitamin A at different rates, based A on just their metabolism, but B also what else they've been eating. So if you're trying to get to near toxic levels without killing someone, it needs to be done by a professional. And either RFK didn't know, so he reads, vitamin A cures. There's some evidence that vitamin A can be a genuine help, but it has to be done by a medical professional. And he keeps leaving that part out. So,
yeah, and people need to understand what the difference between, water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins are, and the fact that anything fat-soluble is stored in the body fat. That's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, which is, of course, if it's stored in the body fat and you get sick, you eat less. If you eat less, what happens? Your body starts burning off the fat, which means anything that was stored in the fat starts going up in your system. So if you're not a medical professional who's prepared for the fact that even without giving you extra doses, your levels may go up because you're burning fat. This is why competency matters. This is why competency matters. Oh. And by the way, the people who are overdosing are children. Why? Because it's the children who weren't vaccinated against the measles and now have it. All right. Meanwhile, we are going to get back to Tren de Aragua in just a minute. We're going to get back to the deportations in a minute. Before we do, would like to confirm a couple of things. One, Trump has said that he is considering serving a third term as president. He said this to NBC. This is not a joke. He said he is considering doing it.
He specifically said no joke.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they said, they asked him to clarify. He said, "I'm not joking." He then said, let's see, I've had more and more people ask me to do a third term, which in a way is a fourth term because of the other election, the 2020 election, which was totally rigged. He's president now, and he still can't let that go. He said Sunday, quote, "I'm not joking. There are methods with which you could do it," he said in a interview, telephone interview with NBC from Mar-a-Lago. I don't want to talk about a third term now because no matter how you look at it, we've got a long way to go. Now, we've been banting back and forth a bit about this on the Discord. I'm going to tell you, those of you who've watched the show before know I have a BA in philosophy, steeped in law my entire life. I have a love of language and formal logic. The way I see the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution written, in a technical sense, he is absolutely correct. He is absolutely correct. You'd have to get cute with it, but lawyers are well known for getting cute. This administration actually hasn't gotten cute yet. They've just used a bulldozer. But the 22nd Amendment says no person shall be elected to the office more than twice. So as long as he's not elected, he can keep going in. So for example, if he were, say, vice president, the president gets elected and then quits. So he just goes to Vance, hey, I'm going to be your vice president. Vance gets elected, quits, boom, he gets in. That's got complications. He could do it as, Speaker of the House. There are no real requirements for Speaker of the House. Heck, they were going to make Elon Musk Speaker of the House at one point. He's not even in Congress. So he could be Speaker of the House, get Vance and somebody else he trusts to run for president. They win, they resign, boom, he's president. He's serving a third term, but he's only been elected twice. And since he's made it crystal clear that if you're Christian, you vote for him, you'll never have to vote for anyone again, I take him at his word. Any thoughts on this? And you know the Constitution better than I do. Do you concur that technically a strict read of the Constitution, I'd be accurate in what I said?
I should preface this with I am obviously a law expert because I watched some guy on YouTube once. Mm-hmm. So in my vaulted expertise opinion, well, it does say that. However, I would be interested to see if that actually passes legal review in the courts. A lot of people are like, hey, well, you know, Trump's got the Supreme Court in his pocket. Maybe it doesn't quite seem so much so now. I mean, they've not been exactly helpful to Trump very recently, because we have a hell of a lot of case law, briefs, etc. surrounding this. So we know what the intention was. So the question is going to be, are they going to come down on the side of, and I think that's going to end up being a legal philosophy case, or are they going to come down on the intent of the law versus what the law actually says? And I've seen the courts come down on both sides of those arguments. And I have to come down on the intent. You know, when you have that much surrounding documentation talking about exactly what they're trying to do and what they're intending to do, and then they use an injudicious phrase in the actual law, I think the court should be able to look at the surrounding documentation around it and say, yeah, this is clearly what they intended to do, and they made a bad set of word smithing isn't going to stop that. So that's where I come down on it. And I kind of have to be, you know, philosophically consistent.
Well, and I think, Jesus Christ, how many days into this administration are we? It feels like a year. So I mean, we got time. Who knows where we're going to be 3 or 4 years from now? But here was the other thing that I wanted to mention about this, which was he said that there was a plan to do it. He then walked that back, which is hilarious because it really was it was a little bit like we have a plan. Well, we have a concept of a plan. When he did that, it was because you could tell he had no idea what they were going to do. So like he knew he couldn't cop to we've got a plan because somebody would ask him what the plan was. So it's like we got a concept of a plan. This, he said, we have a plan. Well, no, we've been thinking about it. We don't have a plan. That means they have a plan. There is no way they do not have a plan. They have planned absolutely everything to this step, and nobody, he said in an interview, "Oh, I could get a third term," and nobody suggested that to him. He thought that gem all up on his own. Oh, there are ways to do it. NBC asked him if one of the ways was, in fact, to have him run as vice president under Vance and then have Vance resign. He said, yes, that was a way to do it, and, quote, other ways. Take that for what it's worth. I believe him. He's thought about it. In fact, let me just see. I don't want to talk a third term now because no one... there are methods in which you could do it. Okay, this article is from the 8th. Oh, yeah, here you go. Let me see. Yes, NBC's Kristen Walker asked Trump if one of the potential avenues to a third term was having Vice President J.D. Vance run for president and then resign, passing it to Trump. And then Trump said, well, that's one way, but there are others too. There are others. Can you tell me another? Walker asked. No, Trump replied. I don't know that could go either way. Either that was the only way and he knew it, but he wants to pretend he's smarter than he really is, or he's really got another way. I'm inclined to think that's their way. The other way is going to be, we've been talking about this, whether or not there's going to be a declaration of martial law. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure that out. We do. He's right. We got a long way to go. Meanwhile, Tim Pool has been assigned. This is going to be, I'm going to mention this 6 times before this stream. Tim Pool is part of the press pool. Are you kidding me? Tim Pool, Putin's propaganda machine, sitting there. He's a kid. He thinks he knows everything, and he's now part of the White House press pool. Oh my God. Okay, never mind. If you want to learn more about that, rewind 30, 40 minutes. There has been a number of executive orders over the last couple of days. We're still trying to parse out what different ones say.
One of the most concerning executive orders. I figure I'll slide this in right here. I should put a disclaimer before this. What I'm about to say is not true. It absolutely is not true. However, it could be. Trump's most recent executive order was changing the Pledge of Allegiance. It will no longer be the traditional Pledge of Allegiance. It will now read, I pledge allegiance to the Trump, Presidente of the People's Republic of America, and to the republic for which he rules, one nation, under God King Trump, with tyranny and injustice for all.
When was, I want to say, that was done in Germany, 1934? When the allegiance changed from the chancellor, who happened to be Hitler, to Hitler himself, which is a very different thing. Have you heard any word? Do you think yeah, that's going to be coming. That's going to be coming. I mean, there's already loyalty tests I mean, we've covered this. There are loyalty tests now they've fired half the government, and there's going to be loyalty tests for anyone coming back in. When was your come to MAGA moment? That's literally one of the questions.
Yeah, and you can clearly see, I mean, just even among the Trump sycophants who fit that term like perfectly. That's why I used, they're specifically sycophants. I mean, that's the big, I mean, now I try and talk to people, and now I'm getting questioned about my loyalty to Trump, and which I'm like, dude, this is absolutely terrible. He's doing horrible things. And I just dropped my glasses. I can't see anymore. Help, I'm blind. So and then people are starting to shut down. They're starting to collate around their own beliefs. They're starting to target other people who don't believe the same way they are. And they're searching out people of like minds, trying to root out people who don't fully believe. I mean, even if you're like, meh, I'm apolitical, suddenly you're the enemy and you're now on the outsides, and it's kind of frightening. I think I sent you, it was a while ago, I think maybe during Trump's first term. I don't know if you ever actually followed up with it or not, because it was a bit long, but there was somebody I was watching on Facebook who started off as kind of a hippie beer drinker on YouTube. Had a long beard, kind of, I hate to disparage hippies. It's just that kind of look, just a very free-loving kind of individual who used to rant about, different kinds of, and then Trump got elected, and you could watch in real time the descent into authoritarianism and just the radicalization of this individual. Suddenly, cut his hair very military short, shaved everything, started saluting the flag at the beginning of every one of his things, giving the report on what was going on and all of the forces arrayed against his God King Trump. He didn't specifically say that, but I mean, you could watch it in real time, and now I'm seeing the exact same things again, and they're getting more selective. They're going deeper. It's not just now they're going to argue with you on the internet over things. It's like, no, now they're making threats.
Oh, now people are vanishing. Speaking of Sinister Porpoise, $20.48. Hope we find out what happened to 𝐒𝐚𝐦𝐚𝐫, Indiana University computer science professor and prominent cybersecurity researcher. So she donated that quite some time earlier in the show, and I decided to make that one of the earlier things, so I forgot to do the super chat. We do appreciate it, and it's obvious. Xiaofeng, thank you. Xiaofeng Wang.
I had to look it up. I wish I could speak Mandarin, but I had to look it up and ask how is that actually pronounced. And the internet sites all tell me Xiaofeng.
And let us pray to God he does not end up in El Salvador. That's not a joke.
Well, how would we even know? That's I mean, because somebody disappears into that prison down there. It's like, who's going to enforce anything? You're never going to get any information out of that. I don't even know that El Salvadorian people or anybody involved with that prison actually know who's in there. Yep.
And they certainly don't have any rights in any sense that we'd recognize. So, yeah. So, Sinister, thank you for the $20 super chat. I think that was an important story. And when intellectuals start vanishing, and the universities associated with them scrub them from like any record that they ever worked there. And again, the Johns Hopkins professor was like, he was tenured. You can't just do this. Look, if he wasn't tenured, go right ahead. But he got tenure. You can't. Sorry, you have to be a teacher to get that joke. Yeah.
I mean, it's frightening enough. We saw this before in Trump's first term, him doing these things.
Yeah.
I was very upset about it then. We did a show specifically on that. Then we showed the video of what they were doing. It was nearly comical watching it, going, this can't be a thing that actually happened. Yet it did. What's more frightening to me, aside from them just simply walking up and disappearing people like that, because anybody who's kind of intellectually honest recognizes that the American government has the ability to do that and probably has done that in the past.
Yeah.
What did they threaten the university with to have them scrub his existence from their database and not say a damn thing about it, to just ignore everything, not even admit that he ever worked there? That's the kind of coercion that is even more frightening. That's an entire institution. And you're telling me not one person out there was outraged enough to go, hey, this is what our government is doing? I mean, this is a university, not exactly a bastion of Trump conservatism here. I hate to say conservatism, because when you mix it with Trump, it just becomes absolutely tarnished. That is not what conservatism is about. Trump's ideology. And not one person there is willing to come out and say, hey, this happened. This is what we think. This is what we know. That's even more frightening.
I'm going to disagree with the live chat, because I think it's worse. I think, Xander, I think you hit the nail on the head. Because why isn't a secretary coming out with something? Why isn't a student coming out with? At Mertzi and UTV and Ham, both of whom in our live chat respect the living daylights out of you guys, and you guys know a lot about a lot of stuff. I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think it's funding. I think they made an accusation without any evidence that he was engaged in some kind of espionage, probably with China or something like that, and that if the university mentions any of this, the entire university could be held liable for any criminal activities that he did in violation of the Espionage Act. That's how I would do it. Because funding is not enough to get everybody to shut up. This has to... Yeah, people are terrified. People are terrified. They've scrubbed everything. That's not, we're going to take your money. They're like, he never worked here. We don't know who... that's not money. That's something more than money. So my guess is that they said that he's violated the Espionage Act in some way with China. Now, by the way, it's entirely possible he has. I find it a little unlikely because he's a professor who's tenured, who's been working there for 21 years and published a lot of papers. But there are spies, and we have to deal with spies, and we catch them. But there's a fucking process for it. So, to the best of my knowledge, there is no evidence he's even jaywalked. So I'm not trying to suggest that I know he didn't do something, but I will tell you this. If he was innocent and I wanted to snag him quickly, I would send the FBI and the NSA in there, tell everybody in the department he was a spy. If you tell anybody, you're violating a national secret and you're going to El Salvador. Good luck getting your lawyer to get you out before you're in there. Tell that to the and by the way, I've seen presidents of universities when they fall in line faster than you've ever because all they do care about is the money. They're usually in it for the money, and the reality isn't a lot of money if everybody in the university's in jail. So they get threatened with that. They're like, yes, sir, boom. They want the status quo. That's what the president of the university wants. So my offices were raided by the FBI and not ICE. He's about to get accused of something, but here's the I mean, again, they're deliberately keeping the secret. That's a really big problem. Guilty or not, that's a big problem. And
yeah, if they had evidence that he was in fact a Chinese spy and was guilty of violating the Espionage Act, why wouldn't they just say that?
Yep. And why would the university cooperate to this degree? And it's because they've been threatened, and it's not money. It's not money, because okay, when Columbia was threatened, they changed everything and then said, "Have we done enough? Have we done enough? Are we okay? Is everything good?" Oh God, someone's going to screenshot that. I shouldn't have done that one. But like a little lapdog. This is different. This is qualitatively different. Everything gone. They're not asking, did we do a good job? They are not talking about it with anybody.
Especially with how much Trump likes to pat himself on the back about, especially shit like that. I'm going to be strong armed with China, and to not say, hey, we took out one of China's spies that was committing espionage in our country. That would be something that he would want to gloat about, and not a peep. Yeah.
That's concerning. That's very concerning. So it's just a universe. And again, my father always said this. Again, the line from Shakespeare: "Let's kill all the lawyers." But it's the intellectuals. It's the people who know what they're doing and know how the system works and know how to stop something like this and who see it coming that get attacked first. You have to find a way to get them out of the way, and you have to do it reasonably slowly. It's a boiling frog. So they're pulling PhD students. She's a gang. That lady was a gang member. The video we showed earlier, she was part of a.
And the way they went about that too, because if you listen to the I have to differentiate between the right wing and then the Trump wing. When you listen to the Trump wing describe it, It's like, oh, she was participating in all of these things, which are groups against, America. And had she put on her visa that she was going to do all of these things, it would have just been denied. This is nothing to see here. We're just getting rid of somebody who's trying to agitate in the United States. And then you look at the way that they went about it. I realize that this is the middle of New York City, and New York City is not particularly 2A friendly. But a single woman walking down, being approached by 3 people in dark clothing with masks on their face. And granted, we cannot see everything that she can see. So there was a uniformed, looked like sheriff's officer there. That's just tan. He was in tan khakis. So, but that was the only one that I really saw. One guy with a badge looped around his neck. I don't know exactly what they said to her, but that's got to be frightening to see people in plain clothes just walking up to you with masks on, hooded, and you're like, who the hell is, I'm about to get seriously injured here.
Yeah,
like
she actually
this is
says
a
that.
Terrible way.
She says, prove, but he goes, I'm a police officer. She goes, prove it. And he's said, I don't have to prove it. And then they just grab her. And while she's talking to him, one comes up behind her left shoulder, the other one comes up behind her right shoulder, grab her right by the elbows. So she can't move. I was like, oh, they know what they're doing. These are pros. Yeah. So I want to get the one where you can get the full audio. But now on to sort of finishing the final part of that. Unless I'm going to quickly hit this one just because it's it's part of the when you we have a commander in the live chat. Always great to see him in the live chat, and I think he will confirm that if you're going to take over a country as a dictator and fascist, you have to rewrite the culture of it as well. And today there was a White House. Was it today? Oh no, this was actually a couple days ago. Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. This is an executive order. Which one was today? Let's see. Oh, he's exempted basically every single executive branch agency from labor protections. They were exempt from most of them anyway, but that's Chapter 71, Title 5. He's exempted absolutely everybody, the Department of State, Department of Veteran Affairs, Department of the Treasury, except the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Why do they still have rights under Chapter 71, Title 5? That's interesting. Why the hell did he... I'll have to think about that sometime when I'm not live on air. But anyways, they are... let's see. They are... rolling back the notion that America is institutionally racist, and let's see, the shift the narrative to portray American Western. Okay. The Smithsonian Institute has been under attack. It has come under the influence of a divisive, race-centered ideology. This shift has promoted narratives that portray American and Western values as inherently harmful and oppressive. For example, the Smithsonian American Art Museum today features, quote, The Shape of Power, Stories of Race and America's Sculpture. An exhibit representing societies, including the United States, have used race to establish and maintain systems of power, privilege, and disenfranchisement. The exhibit further claims that scripture has been a powerful tool in promoting, sculpture. Sculpture? Okay, sculpture has been a powerful tool in promoting scientific racism and promotes the view that race is not a biological reality, but a social construct, stating, quote, race is a human invention. The National Museum of African American History and Culture has proclaimed that, quote, hard work, individualism, and the nuclear family are aspects of, quote, white culture. The forthcoming Smithsonian American Women's History Museum plans on celebrating the exploits of male athletes participating in women's sports. These are just a few examples. So he's targeting the Smithsonian. He is targeting, let's see, the National Zoo. They want to take over the Smithsonian Board of Regents and various other institutions and museums. The vice president, the director of OMB, shall work with Congress to assure that that future appropriations to the Smithsonian Institute prohibit expenditures that denigrate shared American values, that divide Americans based on race, or promote programs or ideologies inconsistent with federal law and policy. Federal policy set in, arguably, any executive order is federal policy. So essentially, the argument here is that if it disagrees with the previous policies that he's laid out in his executive orders, they can't fund the Smithsonian or anything else. So, restoring truth in American history. Oh, wow. Okay. There was a couple of other ones. I think I'm going to move forward to sort of our last thing, which is circling all the way back to the beginning so that we've got some idea for how this is being done. We have a declassified version of the documents, the document guidelines for how to spot members of TDA for arresting and deporting them. So we are going to cover those guidelines, I believe. And I've got, so let me, we're going to show both those guidelines, but I do want to make sure that I can zoom in on a couple of elements as we need to. So let's bring up guidelines here. I know the way I started this, we have the declassified, makes it sound like I'm about to say or do something snarky. I'm not. This is the actual document. Page 1 of 156. We are not going to get into all of it, but it is a declaration of what standard is being used to identify and detain people under the Alien Enemies Act. This is a form you can see here, Alien Enemies Act. In the case of the person is so, they have to identify the age, the Alien Enemies Act. I don't, they didn't bother the age when, I guess if they're going to separate you from your parents, they want to know. Okay, this is a, anybody who scores a 6 or higher, I believe it is, on this one, is able to be deported. So what exactly does this form have on it? Now, it's got a number of categories and a number of things that have various points. So in judicial outcomes and official documents, subject has been convicted of violating Title 18 or any other federal or state law criminalizing or imposing civil penalties for activity related to TDA. That's 10 points. Well, that's fair. That's fair. If you've been convicted of being a member of TDA, you go straight to now. I don't know why they bother with higher than 6 if 6 is all that you need, but that's a fair one. Court records identifying the subject as a member of TDA or describing specific activity of TDA is a 5, so you're pretty close on that one. Subject admits to being a member of TDA. That's okay. That's fair. 10 is fair. Subject participates in criminal activity while other members of TDA are present. That's a 6. All right. Well, that's problematic, but there's another one that's even more problematic for all the same reasons, so we'll skip that. Law enforcement or intelligence reporting identifies subject as a member of TDA, including Bureau of Prisons validations from a reliable foreign partner information. All right, so this is basically they were told by a reliable partner. This gets into questions of who's reliable, yada, yada. credible statements, testimony from victims, members of, that's 3, detailed open source media. All right. Where is, I want to get to some of the more interesting ones because, let me just, I have a list and I want to make sure I'm getting to the correct ones on the list. You know why I'm having such a hard time?
Checking it twice.
I'm checking it twice. Well, the reason I'm having such a hard time doing it, actually, is because fucking Tim Pool has joined the White House press corps. Tim Pool, I can't, and so here's the thing. So, like, I was doing research for this show, and as soon as I saw that, my brain just kind of stopped, and now I had all my research lined up, and Tim Pool is joining the White House press corps. Okay. Self-admission is okay. Oh yeah, this was okay. This was an important one that I think we're gonna highlight right here. And unfortunately, I don't think you're seeing the highlight, and the highlight doesn't come through. But it's under self-admission A. Subject self-identifies as a member, verbally or in writing, to a law enforcement officer, even if that self-identification is unwitting. So through a lawful interpretation of communications. 10, right there. So if you identify yourself inadvertently as a member, that's a 10. Here's the problem. It's up to the law enforcement officer to say that you did or didn't and how so. One of the things that they've decided, and this is, you can see about tattoos, everything down here, the having certain tattoos. Oh, that's why it's not, because I'm scrolling it on the wrong. I've got that version up here for you guys to look at, and so let me get back to this one where you can see the scrolling. That's why, yeah. So we just covered this right here. This is a 10. And this is the ball game. And the reason it's the ball game is because any officer who makes a determination that you have unwittingly outed yourself can now just say, you're a 10. We know for a fact. It's even over a 6. We can deport you. What are some of these self-admissions that can be made? Well,
if you got a random tattoo that you saw was really cool on Instagram, and so you're like,
bingo.
Yeah, I like that one.
Bingo. Any of these tattoos are considered, so it says detecting and identifying. These are TDA membership tattoos. Now, there's a couple of problems with this. First of all, I've seen most of these tattoos before on people. Second of all, and let's see if we can, I'm going to bring this back here. When they decided to try to bring this together, it appears as if nobody even bothered. All of this stuff is open source material. None of this is actually taken from a member of TDA. None of it. None of it. They open sourced and just took this off of Twitter and Instagram. One of the people who noticed it was this guy here. He is, and let me just see, I want to bring it up so that I can see it because the writing is pretty small. He's a tattoo artist, and he posted on Instagram this tattoo, which is his favorite tattoo, which he had done on himself. Hold on, and let's see. Yeah, there we go. So this is a shot of, I believe, yeah, this is on Instagram, liked by. So this is the artist, Justin Burnout Tattoos. And if you look at the center screen, you will see that that is the exact image that they've taken. And there's only one tattoo like that anywhere in the world. Just one. He had it done on his arm. So they even admit, again, open source material, which it's actually still technically not open source because they took it off of Instagram. It is copyrighted. Nonetheless, I think what they meant to say was, well, we're showing you examples of these tattoos. No, they Googled tattoos and grabbed a whole bunch and put them into this. Now, we did have earlier down, I think it's been redacted on this version, a number of the tattoos that confirmed that people were members of TDA, and those tattoos include the one, my favorite was, I looked at it, I said, that's the Rolex symbol. And it was the symbol for Rolex. The guy just got a Rolex symbol tattooed on his arm. And they said, oh, TDA, boom, deported. Again, if you have any of these, and the star, I've seen those on loads of people. So these are all just some examples of what identifies you as a member of TDA and instantly puts you to a 10. Instantly puts you to a 10 by the very chart that was right up here and what I've highlighted in blue. So all the rest is meaningless. And I said before, I don't, this one right there makes a lot of sense. If you've been arrested, convicted of being a member, yeah. The self-identify is so vague, and then it says, here's ways to identify. So it makes it a little less vague and says, pick a tattoo. We already reported on a Mexican soccer player, a famous Mexican soccer player, who has the Mexican soccer club, I forget the name of the club, tattoo on, and they identified that as a TDA. So he is still, to the best of my knowledge, in there, despite the fact his only crime is being a fan of a soccer club. They do have some examples here of various AK-40, what looks like AK-47 tattoos. As I said, I don't think the some of the really silly ones that they've used are here. The rest of the document we will put in the Discord. This is a man whose wife says that he is not a member. And it was, he just vanished, did not show up for a birthday party, and is currently detained. Anyways, I don't think it's got the other tattoos that I was looking for. Okay. So we'll put that in the Discord for people who are interested in it. But that was it. I wanted to show you guys at this point how simple it is. Those are the guidelines that the U.S. government is using to identify members of a terrorist, international terrorist organization. We know it's an international terrorist organization because it has been declared thus by executive order by President of the United States. It is an international terrorist organization that is invading our country. And anybody who is wearing any tattoo similar to any of those, or just about any other tattoo that an officer believes may be of a TDA gang tattoo, may now be arrested, deported without any due process, and taken to a prison in another country they've never been in, and engage in forced labor. That is the current standing of things as I see it. Xandering, thoughts?
It's frightening the amount of latitude that they've given officer discretion. So, anybody who has even a suspicious tattoo, I have a feeling that they're going to, it isn't going to matter. If you have a tattoo, they're going to go, oh, look, you're a member of Trend TDA. And it's like, no, really. I'm pretty sure that that's an anchor with a superimposed USN over the top of it, and that doesn't mean anything at all with Trendy Aragua. No, I'm pretty sure that denotes something to do with the United States. No, up to El Salvador you go. Like what? What? Really, you're going to make that decision on the side of the road, and you're just going to apprehend me, shift me off with zero due process, even though I can't speak a lick of freaking Spanish. And yeah, I mean, that's essentially what this allows them to do. Just based off of that one thing. Like, they don't have to have anything else, because, I mean, that's a 10.
Yep.
So heaven forbid I should be driving through any of the border states, and I go to one of the little border checkpoints, and they, God forbid, see my USN tattoo, and They go, "Oh my God," and they arrest me and ship me with zero due process at all, even though I have a valid, not only is it a CDL, but it's an enhanced CDL, which means I had to prove where I was born. I had to produce my birth certificate, a certified copy of my birth certificate, along with 3 other forms of identification. In order to get that certification, it worked as a passport to go into Mexico and Canada. And yet that's the only criteria by which they can decide that I'm a member of some Venezuelan gang and just ship me away to a foreign prison. I mean, really?
Yeah.
I don't want an officer. I don't want any single individual to have that kind of power, ever.
Well, and that was the whole fucking point. I mean, here I am, and it's like the reason the Constitution. Everybody who ends up hosting or guest hosting on In Time gets a card. We need a card because if your camera fails or anything like that, there's a card. I have a card. It's rare my camera fails, but when it fails, you see the card. And yours is the Constitution, and you and I talked about how we were going to make your card, and you had a lot of options, and that was what you went with. So there's a very good reason, and you've always talked about the Constitution. It's been very important to you. I believe in the Constitution, but I have always been a lot more like most people, which is like, yeah, sure, I love the Constitution. It's because it's that document that guarantees us rights, which is really kind of cool, and yada yada yada. But it's like now we have to sit down and talk about the hows and the whys of what the founding fathers. And innocent until proven guilty is not actually in the Constitution, but the entire concept is baked into the idea that they have to have a warrant to arrest you, habeas corpus. The fact that the job is the government to prove you're guilty. It's not the job of the person to prove they didn't do something wrong. And everything we've talked about today is a complete inversion of that. It is going on right now. It's going on in universities. It's going on in the streets. Trump has said he's going to do it to 500,000 people if he gets an opportunity. A court has told him no. We'll see how successful they are. The courts have had a little more success than I'd have thought. They've slowed him down, kind of. I don't know why, because he doesn't need to slow down. But he's like, okay, we'll stop using planes. We'll use buses. It's like, that doesn't get around the court order. But okay, so now he has to use buses, which slows him down a bit. Fine. There's a reason you're not supposed to be able to just disappear a university professor, and again, yeah, we've seen agents foreign agents do terrible damage to this country, but nobody can damage this country more than we can do to ourselves. That's how terrorism works. The whole point of terrorism is, we're too small to actually take you down, so we're going to get you so scared you take yourselves down. That's it. It's that simple. Works really well, actually, unfortunately. And appears to be one of the techniques being applied to Indiana University because they're fucking scared. You don't scrub someone like that unless you are scared. So that's it. I don't know, any, let's see, 256 from Sinister Porpoise. I respect Pool's journalism as much as Nick does Sinister Porpoise, who has a background in journalism as well. So, yeah, oh, Jesus, for fuck's sake. I've seen about 10 minutes of Pool. That was about all I could stand. I could see why he's appealing, though. I could, just from a media perspective. I was just like, ooh. If I just sort of made shit up on the sly and wasn't responsible for what I said and just like threw crap out there, like for people to gobble up, In Time would have so many more subscribers. I gotta tell you, not gonna do it, but yeah, I see why. All right, so that's it. I have a feeling we're gonna have some breaking coming up. Tomorrow is presumably going to be the tariffs kicking in. A number of countries. South Korea has allied with China and Japan to combat our sanctions. That's 2 of our allies combining with one very hostile nation to work together to fight us economically. Trump's a uniter. I will give him that. So we'll see what happens with the tariffs, as always. And you know what? I mean, we treat your like and subscribe with respect. So please do hit that bell, get the notifications. Every now and then we'll do somewhat of a more joking video, but truth be told, we don't go to breaking news for absolutely everything. And, you know, it's like we try to do it when we feel like we have something to offer. So if you like that, share. If you like our show, if you think that this kind of information is helpful, share. We're going to keep doing it. And so long as people support us and so long as we can keep doing it, we will be there to discuss these things. So we appreciate your support back, and especially Sinister Porpoise, 2 very nice super chats today. You've always been a supporter of ours for years. So thank you. Final thoughts, Xandri? What?
Do you remember like the good old days when there was massive flooding in, I believe it was Afghanistan, and it's like we actually went breaking news with that because there was quite a lot of devastation and, you know, unprecedented rains and things like that. And that was breaking news worthy. And now it's like there is so much. We are a show that's based in the United States. A lot of craziness going on in the United States. We do try to cover international news. There's been many instances of that. But it's gotten to the point where, I mean, just the violations of not only just the letter of the law of the Constitution, but the entire spirit, the founding principles of the Constitution have gotten so egregious that we don't even go breaking with news of a massive earthquake in Myanmar that collapsed buildings, you know, all the way over in Bangkok, and the devastation that it's like we didn't even cover that anymore.
Yeah, I would have if that we almost went with that one, and then I looked into it and could only find one building that collapsed. It was under construction. There may have been more, but the one that I saw, there was a shot that was deliberately deceptive, and shouldn't get into too much how we considered it, but yes, you're right. I mean, we've gone in like we did. We've done a number. Yeah, when it's earthquakes, we covered the Haitian earthquake. We've covered, and yeah, at this point, it's just sort of like we don't want to just end time's going again. If we're going, yeah, we try to be selective. That's good.
Yeah, back in the good old days where, you know,
yeah,
things like that were breaking news, and, you know, it's like we really needed to, you know, we'd have gone on, we covered it, we'd have showed you what it was. You know, we'd have pointed out that, hey, I probably think that most of the damage caused in Bangkok was due to shoddy construction, not the super huge shaking that occurred, because we have I've seen lots of video from Bangkok of the shaking. It was not that bad. However, that stuff like that used to like that was what we looked at, and it was like, wow, we should cover this because, you know, it's a pretty significant incident. And now we're being completely drowned by frankly some terrifying shit that's going on. You know, it appears that we're watching the downfall of the United States as a republic that believed in individual liberties and self-governance into a banana republic currently, with the actions that Comandante Trump is taking currently, and threatens to go full-on dictatorship.
Well, and he's already, I mean, and we know for a fact he's been eyeing ways to get around Posse Comitatus. He's been setting that up since day one. And we covered that it's like our coverage of the very first day and all the executive orders. It's like, we're like, okay, this is what he's going to do with this. And I remember when he declared them an international terrorist organization. I was like, oh shit. There's only, I'm still trying to work on that language. There's only one reason to do that. Only one reason to do that. And here we are. So, yep. Thank you again to the Time Travelers, everybody who supports us. Thank you to Blonde Bombsheller, gifted 10 memberships. Blonde Bombsheller, you've been a marvelous supporter of ours. Really appreciate it. We disagree on our goat burning views, but in the end, we come together over news and things, I guess. But thank you very much for that, Blonde Bombsheller. Appreciate it. And thank you all. We're going to stay on the news. Check out our Discord. It's essentially a newsroom. That's where we put the shows together. And you guys are as much a part of this as I am. So we all sort of get together and figure out how we're going to frame it, put it together, and then it goes out on the air. But until next time, hopefully everybody can get some rest. And we will see you. Next scheduled show is Downtime with Commander Lance McMillan at 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Although actually I think we may be moving those back to 9. Keep an eye out for a scheduling change, see if that happens. But we are looking forward to that. And I think Xander and I are going to be doing a few more regular shows because this is a lot. In the meantime, take care of each other and remember to take time for yourself and the people you have a good night.